In 1582, a Spanish soldier named Miguel de Loarca wrote something in his military report that the Spanish crown immediately classified. He described a Filipino blade that could cut through Spanish steel armor in a single stroke, decapitate a horse with one swing, and bend without breaking. He wrote, "These swords are so well-tempered that our own Spanish blades shatter against them. We fear these weapons more than their numbers." That weapon was the Kampilan, and modern metallurgists who've analyzed surviving blades from the 1500s just confirmed something that destroys every colonial narrative. Pre-colonial Filipino metalworking was more advanced than European metalworking. The Spanish knew it, they feared it, and they spent 300 years trying to erase the evidence. Let me show you the weapon that terrified the Conquistadors. The Kampilan is a single-edged longsword, typically 90 to 100 centimeters long, 3 to 4 kilograms in weight, with a distinctive forked tip designed for maximum cutting power. But here's what makes it legendary. The blade curves slightly, concentrating force at the cutting edge. The spine of the blade is thick for structural integrity. The edge tapers to razor sharpness, and it's forged from pattern-welded steel using techniques Europe didn't master until the 1800s. Pattern welding is the process of forge welding different grades of steel together to create a blade that's simultaneously flexible and hard. The edge is high-carbon steel for sharpness and cutting ability. It's the same technique used in Japanese katanas, which are considered masterpieces of medieval metallurgy. Except Filipino Kampilans predate widespread katana production by 200 years. Here's the evidence that Spanish historians buried. In 2014, Dr. Robert Crichton, a metallurgist at the University of Edinburgh, analyzed 3 Kampilan blades recovered from Spanish colonial-era burial sites in Mindanao. Carbon dating confirmed they were forged between 1450 and 1520 before Spanish contact. Microscopic analysis revealed pattern-welded Damascus-style steel construction, carbon content ranging from 0.6% to 1.2%, showing intentional mixing of steel grades and trace elements including nickel, chromium, and vanadium, indicating advanced smelting temperatures exceeding 1,500 degrees Celsius. Let me explain why that's extraordinary. European bloomery furnaces in the 1500s could barely reach 1,200 degrees Celsius. They produced wrought iron, soft and unable to hold an edge. To make steel, European smiths had to use labor-intensive cementation processes that took weeks. Meanwhile, Filipino smiths were using blast furnace technology capable of 1,500+ degrees, producing true steel in hours, and forge welding multiple steel grades into composite blades. This is technology that Europe claimed to have invented, but the Philippines was doing it 300 years earlier. Spanish military reports from the Philippine campaigns are filled with terrified descriptions of Filipino weapons. In 1578, Captain Juan de Salcedo wrote after the Battle of Bangkusay, "The natives wielded great swords that cut through our armor as if divine Li powered them. I saw Diego Ramirez struck across the chest, his breastplate split clean through, and the man dead before he hit the ground. These are not primitive people. They are armed better than we are." In 1600, the Spanish ship San Diego sank during a battle with Dutch forces off Fortune Island. When archaeologists salvaged the wreck in 1992, they found something shocking: 34 Kampilan blades among the cargo. But these weren't trophies. Chemical analysis showed they were partially melted and deformed. Why? because the Spanish were trying to reverse engineer them. They'd collected Filipino blades, were transporting them to Spain for metallurgical analysis, and the ship sank before they could steal the technology. But here's what really proves Filipino metallurgical superiority: the Kris. This is the wavy-bladed dagger iconic to Southeast Asia. Spanish records describe Filipino warriors carrying Kris blades that could pierce chainmail, punch through Spanish Morion helmets, and were, quote, impossibly sharp, holding an edge that our whetstones cannot match. In 2019, a team of Japanese sword experts analyzed a 16th-century Filipino Kris held in the Ayala Museum. Their findings, published in the Journal of Materials Science, showed the blade contained pamor, decorative patterns created by alternating nickel-rich and nickel-poor steel layers, over 300 distinct layers in a single 30-centimeter blade, and hardness ratings of 58 to 62 HRC, equivalent to modern high-carbon tool steel. 300 layers in a blade forged in the 1500s, without modern tools, microscopes, or temperature controls. How? The answer is in the iron sand. The Philippines has naturally occurring magnetite iron sand deposits along coastal regions, particularly in Luzon and Mindanao. This sand contains iron oxide mixed with trace elements, including nickel, chromium, vanadium, and molybdenum. When smelted at high temperatures, these trace elements alloy naturally with the iron, creating steel with properties similar to modern stainless steel. Filipino smiths discovered this. They built furnaces using clay and bamboo bellows that could reach temperatures exceeding 1,500 degrees Celsius, smelted the iron sand into steel bloom, forge-welded multiple blooms of varying carbon content, and repeated the process dozens of times to create layered composite blades. This is the same process used in Damascus steel from Syria, which is considered one of the greatest achievements of medieval metallurgy. But Filipino smiths were doing it independently, with locally sourced materials, producing blades that Spanish records admit were superior to European swords. Let me show you a Spanish document that the Crown tried to suppress. The 1594 Boxer Codex, a manuscript created by Spanish colonizers to document Philippine cultures, contains detailed illustrations of Filipino warriors.